Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Upside Swings NBA Draft podcast, the podcast of the highest ceiling. I'm your host, Bryce Hendricks, joined always with the great Cooper Klein, the wonderful Stone Hansen, and we're here to do another redraft. We've been bringing these at you fast and furious. We've kind of been thinking about some future scheduling and stuff, and talking about when we'll bring you some previews, and we're really planning on trying to keep this weekly to the best of our ability. So we will eventually get to the point where we're doing prospect previews and all that kind of stuff that I haven't loved to do in the past, but I'm interested to see if we can bring industry perspective. But I'm having fun with these redrafts. I thought the first two were a really fun time. It's been really good for me to have to go back and evaluate these drafts as a whole. It's not going to start off like this is one that's not going to start off with a lot of controversy. But I do think there's a lot of really interesting basketball players here that I'm excited to talk about. And I love getting into the depth of it and realizing just how quickly sometimes these drafts fall off in terms of actual NBA players. But before we get too into the redraft itself, Coopstone, my friends, how you guys doing?
I'm doing great. Coming off a long week, and this is the start of my weekend, so I'm excited to kick it off this way and hopefully have a lot of fun with. I think, in my opinion, is probably going to be the best class that we talk about out of all these redrafts. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and there's going to be a lot of good conversations to be had.
You don't think next year's class is better? The one we're going to do next week with multiple MVP candidates?
It's tough. But this is a really good class.
We'll get into a guy who got a
get into it next week
after him in the top 10. And he's really good.
Okay. just for that, I think this class is better.
All right. Yeah. I was trying to how can I throw I got a hose, but I can't really find out how.
I'm leaving that in. I hope you know.
Anyways, we'll see if I feel like we're the perfect age to understand that, right? Like that song dropped right before my senior year of high school. So we were playing it before every game. Obviously, I went to a very white high school, so you can imagine how hype everybody got. Yeah, that was the perfect timing for that. But that's next week. I do think there will be a really interesting discussion in terms of. I do think next week's draft is probably the best draft of the decade. But I do think that we're going to start off with the best player we've talked about so far. And I would say arguably the best two players we're going to talk about so far are the 1 and 2 guys in this redraft. I think we're going to have a really interesting discussion about that. Stone, you're on the clock here at 1. Tell us who you're taking and why.
Why is because I have been forced against my will to take this player. And who I am taking is a Celtic. I'm going to go with Jason Tatum, which might be controversial. Just kidding, it's not. I think he's probably at his best an MVP, maybe a second tier, like a tier below MVP caliber type player, which you're stoked to get at number 1 in any class. And I think that his game has developed in the ways that I think people expected in terms of the best outcomes of his career. If you had sat down and thought, okay, if for Tatum to hit his best outcomes, this and this and this all have to develop. And I think that's been the case for him. Obviously, the unfortunate injury this year is going to set him back a little bit, but since entering the league, just instant success, conference final after conference final, finals appearances, obviously a ring. Tatum is, I think, just a really complete player at this point, who has taken steps to elevate parts of his game, whether it be the shooting, whether it be facilitating, at points the defense, have all taken strides throughout his career, and he's developed in a way that is very easy to see. And it was easy to see prior how that could happen. And it's all thankfully has come to fruition. So easy choice here for me at number 1.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I do want to give Tatum his flowers because I do think he's kind of been memed on at points. This is the first guy we're talking about who I think is comfortably has had years where they're a top 5 player in these last 3 drafts. I don't think Booker, he maybe had a year where he was close to a top 5 player, but I think that was at least arguable. I would say Tatum has probably had 2 years where he was almost unarguably a top 5 player in terms of production, in terms of consistency, two-way impact. He's made 5 All-NBA teams. He's made 6 All-Star games, all in 8 seasons, and it's basically all happened in a row. He made 1 All-NBA third team and then dropped off for 1 year, and then he's made 4 straight All-NBA first teams. I mean, at a certain point, like, he has been one of the most consistent superstars in the league. Luka shines brighter, but Tatum shines more consistently. Until this injury, he was pretty much an Iron Man. The last 4 seasons where he was an All-NBA first team guy, 76 games, 74 games, 74 games, 72 games, not counting playoffs. I mean, just a consummate professional in that way. High volume off the dribble shooter. He's not my kind of star in that he's a really, he's an off the dribble shooter. He can pass, but I don't think he's like some great reader of the defense. But what he does do is he's a really good rebounder for a 3 and even for a 4. He's a great nail defender. One of the better offensive superstars defensively. If that's probably how I would word it, in terms of his ability to be a superstar on offense and still be a plus defender in multiple different areas. He can be a low man. He can be at the nail. He can guard one-on-one okay. He's not like getting through screens, but he's also 6'9". Like, let's keep our expectations in check a little bit. So not like the craziest advantage creator, but one of those rarefied air guys where it's like he's just good enough at making bad shots, and he has good enough pace in terms of his like play and pick and roll and stuff that he can get away with that. And so, yeah, this is just a guy, a really, really obvious number 1 guy here. I don't know that he'll ever win an MVP at this point. And with this injury, he's going to miss a whole season. That's obviously going to set him back. But I don't think anyone is going to pass him to be the number 1 player in this class. But I do think there's a chance that we'll look back in 15, 20 years and say, this is a really underrated player from this era because, at 27, he tears his Achilles, has to miss his age 28 season. When he comes back and it's 29, 30, 31 are like those next few prime years. Is he going to be the level of superstar that can win another championship in Boston, that could compete for an MVP? I have those questions. But really, really good 4-year stretch, better than anyone we've talked about so far. And really, in the next few drafts, only a couple guys you would put, on his level. So can we talk quickly about just how baller move it was by Danny Ainge too? Like, listen, I have my problems with Ainge, but the trade back to get the best guy, not just the best guy in the draft, but comfortably the best guy in this top 10, to get positive value for that's, say what you will about the man, that's a baller move. Coop, you have any thoughts on Tatum before I take our second pick here?
Yeah, I do think that he has, there's obviously some nitpicking to be done with everyone, but Tatum to me is always like the ultimate, just drive the damn ball, please. If you had the driver's mentality, I don't think there's anyone who can guard Tatum getting downhill. And he's just so quick to settle for these more contested, difficult shots when he's one of the best 6'9", 6'10" ball handlers on the planet. And he's so strong and his finishing touch is so good. I mean, there's very few guys you can throw at Tatum in an ISO situation. And Boston's done such a good job of spacing the floor for him in ISO situations. And I just love to see him get into that more. Obviously, I mean, he tore his Achilles. I imagine that we'll see him, slow down, do that even less, look to settle for those middies even more. But I do think that if he can take that mentality leap, this is a guy who's an MVP level player. And I think that that's the one thing keeping him from being, a top 3 player in the league, a top 2 player in the league, in these people's eyes, because I do think he has the talent to be on like a Shea level. Maybe he's not on Jokic's level, but because nobody is. But I think that there's worlds where he can be in these conversations, and it's really just a mentality thing to me. So
Real quick too, is Tatum like the most clutch player that we'll be talking about? Like he is extremely clutch and down the stretch in those tight situations, and I think that's something that we should talk about.
Fox actually won Clutch Player of the Year.
God damn it, Coop beat me to it. But no, I mean, for what it's worth, like, legitimately good playoff resume, and obviously won a championship, and they weren't going to win this year, even before his injury. But you felt like this was a team that had one or two left in them. Now, whether or not they do is a big question. But still a guy, and still a very fun player. Rooting for him to come back healthy and successful. It's really tough that two of the better players in a conference are going to miss all of next year with the same injury. It's almost like we should do something about that. But anyways, moving on. Let's talk about my pick here at 2. That's going to be Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell, of course, started his career with the Jazz, a couple-time All-Star with the Jazz, and then traded to Cleveland, where his career has really taken off. He's made an All-NBA second team and an All-NBA first team. Basically, every season he's played above, 60 games, he's been excellent. The one step back year is when he only played 55 games. But when he's playing a lot, he is a really high level scorer who can also make some plays. He's sort of in this weird role where he gets talked about so much as a shooting guard, despite being point guard size. And like, that is kind of I would say somewhat of a drawback in terms of team building, right? He's kind of a hard guy to build around sometimes. And that's why, like, if this Cavs team is going to win a championship in the Donovan Mitchell era, it would be because they have a really high level team around him. But I do think this is someone who you could maybe squint and see him pushing Tatum. He's only a 2-time All-NBA guy, but if the Cavs win a finals in the next couple of years, even if it's at least partially because of Mobley, I think that could be really meaningful. Like, the Cavs and the Magic and the Knicks, you would say right now, are like the 3 most likely teams from the East to win a championship. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting someone, but I don't think it's like the Sixers. It won't be the Celtics in the next couple of years, probably. So if the Cavs win the East like 3 times in the Donovan Mitchell era, even if it's him crescendoing into being their second best player rather than their first best player, that could all of a sudden turn itself into a Hall of Fame career. He was really, really good last year on the best team in the East and in the NBA, I think, record wise, and a team that ran into a Pacers buzzsaw, but was still really good and could really be something, I think, this year that's interesting. So I like Mitchell here. Another guy that I think is flawed, but I would say Mitchell is someone who I would prefer over like Devin Booker, who we've talked about, over any of the best players from the 2016 draft that we talked about. So you guys tell me, where are you at with Mitchell? Do you feel like he is better than those guys? Like, how do you guys contextualize his career so far? And then Coop, you're up at 3.
Yeah, for me, Mitchell's a weird one. Someone that I've gradually gotten a little bit higher and higher on. I think that in his earlier years, for me, like with the Jazz especially, and it's hard to just figure out sometimes that line between what is a winning player and what is a failed roster. And I guess I had trouble distinguishing that a bit with the Utah Jazz when he was on that team. On the Cavs, it's easier to see because they are a better team. And even with that roster, he still, shines as a all NBA level player. So, and the defense has come a long way as well throughout his career. There's a lot of aspects to Mitchell's game that I think he just kind of defies the odds with his size too. Like, as a finisher, as a ball handler, he's able to get and create angles that guys his size typically aren't. So there's a lot to Mitchell's game that has really impressed me over the years. So this was the number 2 pick on my board as well. Surprisingly, I'm not deviating too crazily so far. But yeah, I think for me, I mean, Mitchell is probably right there in the NBA amongst the top 15 or so. So I think that you're happy to get that with a second overall pick in any class.
Yeah, I think he and Booker are really similar levels of guy. To me, I think it just kind of depends on the flavor you prefer. I think, especially as they've gotten older, Mitchell's defensive intensity the last few years in key moments has really gone up. I think he just cares a whole lot more on the defensive end than he has especially while he was in Utah. That was such a big gripe with him. But someone who's just gotten better and better each year, always been an electric scorer since his rookie season. Just kind of a surprise player who came out and has just dominated. And every single time I think about this draft class, I think about one of my favorite Game of Zones episodes ever, where it's Luke Kennard being shown a whiteboard that says, "So you're not Donovan Mitchell, and that's okay." And that is all I can ever think about when it comes to him. But he's a great scorer, great player. Too bad he's 6'1", or else I feel like he'd be on a completely different – I feel like he'd be closer to a Tatum-level guy than a Booker-level guy. So I'm up here at 3 unless anybody has anything else to say. And I'm going to be going with the 3-time NBA All-Star, 5-time All-NBA, All-Defensive Team player, and gold medalist, Bam Adebayo, here at 3. Just the most consistent as far as sustained success. This is a guy who has his offensive warts, but has is so good at the things that he's good at that he just completely transforms what the Heat are able to do. Everyone's going to focus on, he's not going to take the, jumpers. He's not going to do this. He can pass like a madman. One of the most switchable defenders, can really protect the rim. Great rebounder. I mean, he's just so tough. He's doing all of this at like 6'8", undersized guy, unheralded. It's all motor. And it's all motor and feel and consistency. And I feel like if you're not going to get one of these 1A kind of guys here, and I think you could argue that maybe some of the other guys in consideration here could be that, but I just don't think they are. And they don't have the consistency that Bam has had. Just a really special, unique player in a lot of ways. And I do think that uniqueness has a lot of value. Real playmaking from the big spot, a big who can really handle, a big who really tries hard and will fill whatever role you need him to. And really just like completely facilitates to the point where you don't need a point guard. That's a special player. A player who makes Tyler Hero an all-star level player should be an all-NBA player. That's my final point. But Bam, consummate winner, consummate center, so fun. So how do you guys feel about Bam?
The tough thing, so I do think this is where the draft starts a little bit. I think there were I would say you could squint and say, 5 different guys you could have picked. Up to 8 on my board is like, I think you could squint and make an argument. I do think Bam has had the best career of those guys. I think some of the concern with Bam is that last year he was he was not very good offensively at a 52.1 effective field goal rate. The year before, 52.9. His advanced offensive stats have just really dropped off. Like in his best years, he was a 60, 59 true shooting guy. The last 2 years, he's been a below average center, true shooting wise. He's getting to the line way less, getting less offensive rebounds. I worry some that it seems like the Heat really believe in Khalil Ware and that he's going to be playing more 4 or playing with another big, and I don't love that for him. I think the passing is still good for a center, but he's not, when he's not playing with Jimmy Butler, it doesn't look as good. Just the truth of it, and And the defense, I think, has fallen off a little bit. He didn't make an all-defense team last year. He did make 5 straight all-defense teams. He is a 3-time All-Star, never made an All-NBA team, which, as we talked about for a while, was tough with centers, right? Because you had those 2 guys, and Embiid and Jokic, and then it was really tough to get over Gobert too. So that's not the end of the world, but I worry that the career trajectory is going down. Even last year, like, he made an All-Star game. He ended up 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year, which I thought was kind of insane in the 23-24 season. But the second half of that year was rough, and then last year was not great. So I just that's the concern with him. The Heat don't feel like they're moving in a great direction. I don't know where Bam is. Bam is still young. He's only 28 right now. So there's still a chance for him to turn it around. This could be a guy we're looking back on in like 7 years, and we're like, oh man, this is like our stretch, switch, and guard the post 5 like an Al Horford type. Like, I really think like that is maybe the career trajectory I see. Like, as his athleticism starts to dip, like, he uses his intelligence, he uses his touch to develop that outside jumper a little bit. That's always kind of been the hope with him, but he's never had to do it, so he didn't. And maybe now that he has to, he will. I think that's my hope, because I like Bam, and I want a successful Bam Adebayo in the league. But I do wonder if he could get passed up in this. Stone, do you have any thoughts before Coop takes the next pick?
I mean, I think there's probably a couple of years that you could have made some sort of case that Bam was the Defensive Player of the Year in the league. Like, the defense was that good at certain points in his career. Definitely one of the most switchable guys. I think he just reads offenses like a book. Like, you can tell this guy studies in the film room, knows exactly where he needs to be all the time. Extremely consistent on that end. Offensively, is where the warts come in. Like, I can't add much that hasn't been said already, but I think the passing is limited due to the lack of ball handling, even though it's good for his size. I don't know if it's good enough to consistently be that level of, guy you give the ball to as a passer and create things out of nothing, which is rare for any big. But the passing is legitimately good. He can read things really well. I think another thing over the past year that has declined for me has been just the rim running and the rolling as a guy. He seems less consistent as a finisher, and that's a lot due to having watched him being like just off on the timing a bit as a roller, it feels like. So I don't know. There's definitely areas he can improve to get back to where he was at certain points in his career. But this, for whatever it's worth, was the pick I would have made at 3 as well. He was 3rd on my board. So good pick by Coop, and you guys are free to move on.
That's how I know my pick was Dookie Balls. Here at 3 is Stone.
It was Lonzo Balls.
That was awful. I shouldn't be laughing at that. I'm gonna let Bryce take his guy. I don't know if he's his guy, but he plays for his team. I'm gonna let Bryce take his guy here, and I'll take my guy, even if he's maybe not objectively the 4th best player in this class. I'm gonna go with De'Aaron Fox here at 4. Another guy who, to me, is just the model of year-over-year improvement. I feel like he's just consistently, he's added a jumper. He came into the league, he couldn't shoot the ball, and now he's a pretty solid off-the-dribble three-point shooter. He's super fast, great slasher. There's a lot of defensive worries, and he's not the world's best facilitator. But I think that this is a pretty special scorer in a way that, if he gets injured, it's still able to translate, because I do think he's able to get to his spots. He's able to pick his spots. And I do worry at times that he's more like a 2 guard in a 1's body. But I think that he's about as good at that as you can be, for a guy who is kind of technically a 1. You want him next to other playmakers. You want him next to other solid defenders. But the scoring makes it worth it. The downhill pressure makes it worth it. He can make enough reads to make it worth it. And I think just the fact that he gets better year over year, he's consistently clutch. I wish he didn't play on the Kings and now plays for my new least favorite franchise in basketball, the Spurs. because he'd be one of my favorite players in the whole league. Just kicks ass.
All right, let's get the gloves out then. I think De'Aaron Fox is super overrated, to be honest, and
Everybody thinks he's mid. He can't be overrated. So
whatever. He's overpaid. He just got traded for and given a max contract by what is seen to be by many to be a good organization. I just think that, the real thing I disagree with you about is the year-over-year improvement. His best, he has one legitimately really good year, 22-23, where he won Clutch Player of the Year. He made All NBA third team, made an All Star game, and the Kings were competent. I'd have to try to remember exactly how good they were. Was that the year they were the 3 seed and then they lost? Yeah. They were the 3 seed and then they lost in the first round to the Warriors, and then they have not been good. The Kings were not good in the year since, and he was not particularly good in the year since. His true shooting has gone way down over the past season since then. He was at 59, then it dropped to 56.7, and then 56. That's not particularly good. His assist rate is only okay. He assists more than he turns over, but some of that is because he doesn't make high leverage passes. I think this is a modern example of he's like what if D'Angelo Russell traded his off the dribble jumper for going really fast downhill. I just he takes a lot of bad shots, and he's a floor raiser in a way that I don't think is meaningful enough in a general sense to be worth the squeeze. He's obviously a good player, and I wouldn't have let him drop a ton farther than this, but he would not have been my guy here. And I just think that he is not a player that elevates teams to championship level, and he's not so good as a floor raiser that he's worth being a build around guy. And we saw that. I mean, if he was a good enough floor raiser to really raise your team, the Kings would have been so fucking awful the past 2 years. I think he really rides the coattails of that one legitimately great season and the fact that everyone was so excited for him for so long. But there's been a lot of small improvements, but there was also kind of some wheel churning in there, and I'm just not sure. He's about to be 28. This is his age 28 season. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not as into this guy. He's closer to me to the Brandon Ingram, Domantas Sabonis type guys that we talked about in our last pod than he is I would have pulled a stone and drafted someone who is considered a worse player, but has won championships. That's who I would have ended up taking there. So that's my pushback. Stone, do you have anything to say here to maybe break the tie here?
Yeah, I do, but really quickly, Alex Caruso or De'Aaron Fox?
De'Aaron Fox.
Well, De'Aaron Fox, but okay. I'm going to take a player that's better than Alex Caruso.
That's probably true, but I like Fox more than Bryce does. I think that he would have been in consideration. I don't know if he would have been the pick here, but it would have been him or the guy that Bryce is probably taking. And I think Fox is, I think that those Kings teams are ran poorly. The whole organization is run poorly from the top down. And I think any player struggles to win in an environment like that. On the Spurs, I'm not sure if he is the answer. I don't think he's a 1A type of guy. I don't think he's a 1B type of guy to lead a team to a championship, especially as a point guard. I think there's some decision-making flaws there that really hold him back. But I do think that there's strong defense at times that he provides. I do think that the shooting has really improved over the course of his career. This to me is a borderline all NBA player, but definitely an all-star. And I think that year over year, he proves that aspect that he is an all-star level player.
Okay. Here's my pushback. definitely an all-star. We would have taken a guy last year that averaged
All-star level
23
player, I did
points.
say.
Okay, but I'm just 23 points on what was it exactly here? On 56% true shooting. It's below average true shooting. Had a negative defensive box minus, which whatever. Some people are BPM people, 0.4 BPM, 1.3 VORP, like does not have good. The steal rate is okay, right? Like that he does get steals at least. I'm not sure he is like a true like there's a lot of good fucking point guards in the league. I'm not even convinced he's like solidified top 8 point guard in the league right now. That's not like 1,000% solid for me. Obviously, next year it's going to be a little different with Tyrese hurt, but I think I could probably name like 8-9 point guards I'd rather have than De'Aaron Fox right now if we're assuming health. And that's what I'm saying. Like that's my pushback to like, oh, he's an all-star level guy. I think like he made the one all-star team. And because people assumed he was going to be an all-star level guy for so long, going back to college, even like people have just called him an all-star. But other than that 1 year, I'm not sure he is like an all-star. Like I think he's like a fine, above average starting point guard who will present real problems when he's on a team that wants to win real basketball games when it counts in April. And I'm just not as sold on him. I'm just not as sold.
I have questions if he can. That's the hardest thing about drafting is can guys that demand the ball as much as these players do, who are talented, be worth giving the ball to that much when they don't lead to winning like that? And that's the ultimate question. But we don't need to spend 30 minutes on De'Aaron Fox, probably.
Can I say one last thing before
go ahead and then
absolutely not.
Just being trapped on a franchise that is the most dysfunctional in all of sports and thought that trading future all NBA player for Domantas Sabonis, who is probably the most overrated player in the league right now, for my money, center who can't pass and can't dribble and all he does is rebound, is not a good bit. He just sits at the chin, and that was his running mate and is the single-handed reason why they lost in the first round and why they didn't, continue their momentum. I think this is going to be the season where we really see if Fox is some kind of a winner. I'm willing to take the bet. I love the scoring, maybe partially aesthetic bias, but I think that this is a guy who can be a real winner on a real team.
Fair enough. I hope you're right. I would have drafted him probably at 6 or 7. All right, that was stupid. You can cut that out. I'm going to draft Derek White here at 5. And listen, I know this is over an all-star, and one that Coop very heavily hinted at me. Derek White is someone that I think is really good. He has been good for a long time. And I think he has a more longevity left in him than his age might suggest. Now he is old. This is age 31 season. That's obviously a concern, especially considering how much of a defense first player he is. But he's a guy who's gone through multitudes. He was a good off guard secondary ball handler in San Antonio who was a good defender and at times a great defender, but that really popped in Boston. And he's become like a crazy good shooter, like super high volume of elite efficient shooter. I know he's only made 2 all defense teams. And listen, I don't want to overrate, oh man, he won a championship. But this is one of the foremost playoff performers of our time, I think. This is the type of guy, eventually someday we'll tell our kids, yeah, you want to know who really steps up in the playoffs? Fucking Derek White. Give me Derek White in the playoffs. You know what I mean? I think he gets underrated that he just, in those moments, he is always just doing stuff correctly. He's so versatile. I think he actually could have a really big season this year with no Jason Tatum. Pritchard, White, Jaylen Brown are going to be the whole offense of this Celtics team. Like, if they're surprising, like if they're like a 3 or 4 seed, which I don't think is out of the question, he's going to get a lot of that love. Like, I could see him being like a low-end all-star this year. Not that I care about that really. Like, all-star games are the most meaningless stat ever. But I just think he's a really good player. I think he helps you win. This is the type of guy that can be on any team in the league, and he plays real minutes in the playoffs. And is probably close. I don't know. There's a single team in the league next year where I'm like, yeah, he's not closing a playoff game. I just think when push comes to shove, he will be out there for the final stretch of a playoff game, and he's shown that. He was, I would say, the third most important player on a championship team a few years ago, and that's really really something. So we should probably get going a little faster. But if you guys have any thoughts on Derek White, go ahead, and then Stone, you're up at the turn here.
He was tied for me with Fox at that spot, so I could have gone both ways. I probably prefer White, but yeah, I mean, overall, just the defense is literally top tier. Like, I don't think you can name 3 better defensive guards in the league, and the offense is, it's not just existing; it's contributing, and I think that is a big factor as to why Derek White has had the success that he has had. I have my 2 picks, but I don't know if Cooper has any further thoughts on White.
He's awesome, but you are free to take your picks here.
Okay, thank you. I will go. I'm actually going to put thought this time into who I take first. I'm going to go with OG Anunoby here with my 6th pick. I think that he is. I don't know why I'm getting these reactions, because he's legitimately like a top 5 perimeter defender in the league on the wings. He is that stopper type of defender. I think that you could put him on almost any superstar. He's extremely strong. And I think that you feel comfortable with any wing superstar and Anunoby being able to mitigate a lot of what they do. Offensively, he's taken huge strides as a shooter throughout the course of his career to not be a negative and to be honest, be a positive in a lot of instances where he's become more comfortable taking things off the dribble. Not that he does it at a high volume, but that's something that never would have happened to him early in his career. He's dealt with some injury things over the course of his career. It kept him from being consistently out on the floor, but I do think that Anunoby is also one of these players that probably starts for every team in the league. And I think that has a lot of value as well. So I'm going to take Anunoby here with the 6th pick, and you guys are free to talk about it, give your rebuttals, and then I'll take my 7th pick, my 6 and 7 pick.
Anunoby has like the special God-given ability. He is so strong for his mobility level. Like, this is a legit 6'8" guy who is shredded with some of the best hand-eye coordination in the world. Is like the definition of like a lock-up clamps defender. One of the few people you can like actually throw on, these real mega creators and expect them to get a stop. And he just wins in such a unique way. He's one of the like few defenders I've ever watched who can consistently muscle his way through screens. He like makes himself pretty thin, and then it's done. The screener is not there anymore. There are not many people who can do that.
What's so funny about OG is that I actually don't think he has like particularly quick feet, but he just wins with strength every time. Like, he's a really good anticipatory defender in terms of pushing before you make a move, and if you hit him, you're not going anywhere. No, I like this big fight. I was surprised because I didn't think this is where you were going to go. But the more I look at it, like, he's always been really efficient. 59% true shooting for this kind of guy, basically across his career. Obviously, his first couple of years hurt that, but he had one like pretty good scoring year in 2021-22 for Toronto when they were like not great, but fine. He's always contributed to good defenses. He's a great playoff defender. He gets underrated probably in terms of like he's only made one all-defensive team. Like his type of defense is not as impactful in the regular season, just the truth. But in the playoffs, it really ratchets up in terms of importance. And I think you see that. So I'm fine with this. One of a couple guys that has a ring and played a role on that championship team. Started 68 games, scored 10 points. Wasn't crazy efficient, but guarded the best guys a lot in the playoffs. I'm looking at the wrong season. 7 points per game, came off the bench, but still, guard a lot of the best guys in the playoffs, especially when Kawhi or Pascal were not on the floor. So, Stone, you're up here again.
Yeah, there's two centers here, and if you want to make the case for the other one, I won't fight you too much on it because for me it's pretty difficult.
Are we forgetting a player? Or
am I?
Are you forgetting a player? Because both of you have skipped on.
No, I mean I purposely took Derek White over him.
I know, but like,
which player am I forgetting?
Stone, the guy in the fucking graphic.
Nah.
Are you serious right now?
Do you not think OG is like...
No, OG I get.
Yeah.
But like fucking Jared Allen? Are we on the same, are we like speaking the same English, watching the same God's basketball?
This is where I'm with you, Coop. This is where, this should definitely be Lowry over Jared. I like Jared Allen fine. One of the most random All-Star games, but give your case first, Stone, before we just kill you. Because I'll take Lowry Markkanen next, and so then we
go
can
for.
Give your case for Jared.
I feel like I'm tripping. I don't view Lowry at all like that level of like easy home run pick here. I'm going Jared Allen, and there's another center I would have taken over Lowry as well before I got there. I think Jared Allen is like one of the most underrated bigs in the entire NBA and has been for some time because he plays with another center. Which is a better player with Evan Mobley, but them two playing together, I think, really does hold back what Jared Allen can do and showcase on a team when he's by himself. He anchored that Cavs defense, was it 2 years ago, where they had just an awesome defense. And I think that being able to play alongside a player like Evan Mobley is impressive, and obviously Evan Mobley in his own right makes it easy somewhat because he is such a versatile defender. But being able to coexist on the court with two centers at the same time is not an easy feat, especially when Jared Allen is the type of guy that he is, which is more of a drop or down low guy. He has improved his switchability over the course of his career, and I think that that's played a part in it. But an extremely talented roller, times all his rolls perfectly. Good touch around the rim, underrated passer, but obviously with the amount of ball handling and passing the Cavs have, there's just not a lot of room for him to show that. Years now, I think that Jared Allen's been like a top, I don't want to put a number on it, but a top half center in the NBA. And I think that he's just gone underrated for a long time because of who's played around him. But he is, I think, a really strong reason why the Cavs defensively have been able to keep afloat with these two smaller guards that they've been playing.
It's not even the number one reason, right? But real quick, Bryce. Like I like Jared Allen too. Like Mobley is the reason why they can survive. Allen's great, but he's like, he's not an all-star, right? And I love rollers more than anyone, but
I don't think Lowry is either.
I'm just not sure he's a top 10 big. And I do think, for what it's worth, that whatever you want to call Lowry, he is top 10 out of that right now. He's kind of just like a gadget player. We'll talk about him in a second, but you're definitely taking Jokic over him. You're definitely taking Wemby over him. You're definitely taking Cat over him. Embiid when he's healthy. Zubac. Porzingis when he's healthy, probably. Şengün, I would definitely take over him. Bam, Hartenstein, current Rudy Gobert, maybe it gets close. So maybe you're talking about him in that 9-10 range right now, which is fine. It's valuable. If you're a top 10 center in the NBA, you're valuable. That's really good. That's a worthwhile top 10 pick. But Lowry, only one All-Star game, and I understand that so much of his value is based off basically that 1 year and then the following year where he was good. But the thing with Markkanen is that he is just one of the most efficient off-ball scorers in the NBA when he's healthy. He's been on a really weird team. Last year he was not particularly good, which is obviously a concern. But he was on a team with no real playmakers and an offense that was so built around him when he was on, but then when he was off, they didn't have anyone who could replicate what he would do. So they had to completely run entirely different stuff. I tend to not hold that against him. 2 years straight, he had a 64, 63 true shooting while, scoring 25 and 23 points. He's not a great – he's kind of like a 7-foot small forward. So I understand that it's weird. Like, he's a weird player. And I understand, he's not like an all-star. But I do think he's better than Jared Allen. And the reason for that is that I think he can be more additive to winning teams in terms of actually changing. There's more value over a replacement player with Lowry on winning teams when he's healthy than with Jared Allen. And I don't think there's any like a ton of meaningful difference in what they've accomplished so far, other than Allen has been on a better team the last couple of years. So that's where I'm at. And again, I'm perfectly fine with Markkanen falling a little bit. We're here at 8 now. I don't think that's crazy low, despite the fact that he's been an all-star. I probably had him at 6, but I could even squint and see OG over him. But I do think that Allen over Markkanen's a little rough. I could have maybe picked someone else here, though, I will say, who I'm sure Coop is going to take with his next pick. But Coop, do you have any final thoughts on this before you're up here at the turn?
I think Markkanen's really slept on in a lot of. I think his off-ball shooting at his size just completely changes how you have to guard on a basketball floor. And I just, as good as Allen is, and as much respect as I have for the great rim runners, and I do think Allen is actually. I think there's not very many actually good defensive big men in basketball, and so Allen being a legitimately good defensive big man is really important and really good. But the fact that Lauri Markkanen is the only player in the NBA who does what he does, specifically, I think it just makes him that much more valuable to me. And I would have taken Markkanen at 4. I thought I was handing Bryce Markkanen on a silver platter. He's better than Fox to me. I think his highest of highs. He just plays on a dookie team run by a narcissistic moron, in my opinion. And he's an incredible off-ball shooter, a solid defender. He was a contributor to those Cavs teams that were so spunky. This is a guy who can play winning basketball and should be, but the Jazz are greedy and they're bad. So he's stuck playing loser ball with a bunch of losers.
And that's fair. For what it's worth, I like him better than De'Aaron Fox too. Coop, do you want to give us your next pick?
Fuck you, dude. Okay. I'm really happy actually because I get to come away with my favorite player relative to anybody in this class. I get John Collins here on my first player of the turn. Someone who is, to me, the combination of Lauri Markkanen and Jared Allen into one elite player. This is a guy who came into the league.
Okay, I have to clarify for myself. Did you just take John Collins over Isaiah Hartenstein?
Oh, yeah. Hartenstein's played 2 good seasons of basketball.
I love John Collins, but
Hartenstein's my next pick. But
okay, I'm gonna let you finish. I'll let you finish. Go
Collins. Okay, Hartenstein was out of the league in the days that John Collins was putting up 20 and 10s. At the end of the day, I love Hartenstein. I've met him. I've had conversations with Isaiah Hartenstein.
Met his family, had dinner.
I begged him to come back to Houston. We have a connection. John Collins is fucking sick and really slept on for how good he is at basketball. The last few seasons, the motor has always been incredible. On the Jazz, last season he was the best player for the Jazz because they just could not fucking do anything. And he was the only player who ever tried on defense. And he was the only player who ever gave a shit. I think this is a guy who can play the floor because he can stretch the floor. He can roll. He can pop. He broke his hand and couldn't shoot for a few years in there. But I think the shot's coming back around. Just one of the most well-rounded, high-effort players who has consistently just been good on both ends of the ball. If you want to talk about, why did he get traded for so cheap? There's all the concerns. He just fucks. I don't care. I don't care that you nerds want to make me fucking recency bias my way into Isaiah Hartenstein above him. John Collins is going to kill for the Clippers. I thought that they fleeced trading Norman Powell for him because this is a guy who can actually do all the things you want a forward big man to do on the floor and is a perfect pairing with Zubats to me. I just really, really like what he brings to the floor.
I really like John Collins, but he is a pure play finisher who is pretty position locked as a 4. He can't really play make for others. He doesn't really have he can't really attack off the bounce even. He's kind of similar to if you go back and listen to our Rasheer Fleming video. I can't remember if that was a video or that was just a podcast. But our idealized version offensively of Rasheer Fleming is kind of just John Collins, where it's you can really make shots in the corner. He can be a roll man that can go dunk. He can cut baseline, maybe take one dribble and attack. But he's limited. And so the tough thing with him is that he's really he has to be in a really specific fit with guys around him so he can play the 4. He can do some backup 5 stuff, but he can't do that in a high minute role, right? He's pretty position locked if you want to play him real minutes. That's a concern for me. I like Collins. I had him around this range, but you said Hartenstein's going to be your next pick, Coop. So I want to talk about Hartenstein briefly. So Isaiah Hartenstein was the backup center on the championship team last year. I think that matters. He's had his kind of ups and downs. He kind of broke out in 21-22 with the Clippers. Breakout means averaged 8.3 points, shooting 64% from 2. Had one year where he came out the bench with the Knicks and was only okay. And then the second year where he was great with the Knicks. Now, again, it doesn't look like in terms of points, rebounds, assists, but he was great. And he was great with the Thunder. I understand going Collins over him. Collins is more productive. I think he probably raises your offensive floor more. The reason I prefer Hartenstein to him and why I might have even he's kind of around the market and range is because I think that Hartenstein can fit whatever you want to do with your bigs on offense, and he's a pretty good drop big defensively. He can just kind of roll and finish. He has good touch around the rim. He can bully smaller guys enough, but he's a really good passer. He has this little floater. He can play in different spots. He can be a screen and roll big. He can be a handoff big. He can be a high post type big. I think he can do a lot of things. I think we haven't even seen him enough as a hub type big, right? That's something that he probably could do that he hasn't been able to. The truth is guys this big don't usually have feel this good. And I do think that is meaningful. And so I understand where you're coming from, but he was kind of the last guy in a tier for me before I got to guys like John Collins and some of the other guys we're about to talk about. So do you want to give your quick Hartenstein spiel, Coop, before I'm up here?
Yeah, just high motor, high feel, great touch. I think what you said about him just being able to kind of do whatever on offense is really true. I think he's just the consummate. I think you could win a championship with him as your starting center. Just plain and simple, I think he should be a starting player for the Thunder. I think he's that level of guy. And I think he's going to get traded to a team, once the money really catches up with OKC, where we're going to see that this is the starting level center, and I think that there's a world where if he goes to the right team, he can eclipse John Collins within 2 seasons. I think that he does have that level of play, but to me, it's really just the fact that Collins has done it every year of his career. And, as much as I think Daryl Morey is the devil for cutting him when the Rockets went to the bubble, and I still curse him and his family for that entire season and just everything about it. There's a reason, like he took longer to come along. He was very raw much more recently than Collins was very, very raw, right? Like I'm just going with production, who I'm taking first, but I'm happy to come away with both. So Bryce, who's your guy here? Unless Stone has anything to throw in.
Just quickly, I think Collins is one of the most underrated and has been players in the entire league. I think that he is just a really, really good offensive player. Like, it's just no bones about it. He's got great touch. The shooting has come and gone, but when it is there, it's super valuable because it takes it at enough volume for it to be meaningful. The passing's gotten better over his career. He's just a great lob catcher, obviously. Great radius there. Good rebounder. I like John Collins a lot. Like, I think he's a really good player and has been for a really long time. I prefer Hartenstein because I just think he does more things on the basketball court to contribute to winning. I think he's a really good defender. I think he's a really good passer. I think he's got really good touch. Like, there's just so many things that Hartenstein provides that I think is more valuable than what Collins does. But this is probably the 2 picks I would have gone with on my own board as well, just in a different order. But I do think that both of these players are starting caliber players within the NBA.
If we were making teams, I would actually be in love with this front court together. I think it would be perfect. But
that would be a great, like you talk about. I was talking about Collins being a specific fit. Yeah, put Hartenstein next to him. He'd be feeling great. I'm really kind of like at a little bit of I'm having a conundrum. I think all these guys next are like really similar and really close, and I don't know that I love any of them over the other one. What do I want to do? I think I'm going to go Josh Hart. Is that crazy? I don't know if that's crazy.
It's who I wanted.
Yeah. So there's 3 guys that I all have next to each other, who I think are all similar in that they're all like kind of like help you win, like dirty work, defense first, like 2 guards, small forwards. Josh Hart is almost more of like a power forward, who are like smart, but like they're not great shooters. They're kind of whatever, right? And I think Hart is the one that I trust the most to both be available and fit in a couple different schemes, which I think is important for guys like this. I'm interested to see if the other 2 guys I'm talking about go kind of in quick succession here. But for what it's worth with Hart, like he's just been on good teams. He had like 1 year where he was more of a scorer, got up to 15 points per game, but that's not really who he is. Last year with New York, I was actually at 13.6 points per game and shot 61% from 2. That's obviously like a nice thing for him. If he could actually be a 61 true shooting guy, all of a sudden that's like a really good player. He's been really inconsistent in terms of his efficiency. So I think he's tough to get a read on offensively. I think for his whole career, he'll kind of be sometimes he's good, sometimes he's bad offensively. And eventually he's going to have one really bad year and he'll just be out of the league, but really consummate defender, right, can guard 2 through 4. Really good off-ball defender, makes the right rotations. Not like a crazy, steal guy or shot blocker. Last year was actually his career high in steals per game. He started to figure some more stuff out there. Good hands, but just tough, just smart. I think he could start on a lot of teams. Started every game he played for the Knicks last year. I think if the Knicks are going to get over the hump and be a championship level team, Hart will be a big part of that, because Brunson and Cat are such questionable defenders that Hart, Anunoby, and Bridges have to be great. And if they get over that hump and they're a championship level team, which I think is possible this year, if really hard, I think we'll be talking about Hart in a similar way we talk about Derek White, and then we're like, well, man, we let him fall way too far. So I do think something I reflected myself as we do this is sometimes we are colored by what has happened, when stuff like this still can happen. Like Josh Hart could absolutely be the role player of the year on a championship team in the next 3 years, and then we're like, fuck, like he should have been higher than this. So I do think that's interesting. Is it Stone up now at the turn here? What pick are we on, Coop?
That was 11. So we do kind of need to get moving.
Yeah.
But Josh Hart is awesome, real quick. Coolest, best non-shooting perimeter player in the world. And he tries really hard. So I love Josh Hart.
Another blown Laker, former bust for the Lakers. Anyway, yeah.
Wait, Stone, would you have rather had him or Kyle Kuzma?
Okay, now with the 12th pick, I will be this. This will go fast now. I think we've moved past a lot of the guys that will start for most teams. I'm going to go with Malik Monk here with my pick. I think solid, versatile shooter, I should say. Not the most efficient, but definitely a versatile shooter. Has taken on a heavier workload as both a ball handler and facilitator over the last few years for Sacramento. I think he's the best offensive player left on the board for my money, and I'm going to take him here. And I'll just take both my picks. And if you guys,
quickly on Monk, I wish he was on Orlando Magic right now. Really good offensive player, awful defensive player. He's become exactly who everyone hoped he would be, which is like a great sixth man. He can play point guard now. Really fun, good player. Wish that he could get a little bit more love. And his inconsistency as an outside shooter has been the cap on his ceiling, and it's why he's not like a true, high level guy. But fun player nonetheless. Go ahead, Stone.
This is really tough for me. You guys might go the other way, and I wouldn't fault you at all for it. There's really two players here for me. I'm going to go with Jonathan Isaac, who I think when fully healthy is like a top 5 defender in the league. Like I think he is just an insanely great defender. The high highs make the injuries worth it for me, but I completely understand if you go the other way with the other perimeter defender available. But I just don't think he's as detrimental offensively as that other player. And I think that when he is on the court, like he can defend the center position. He can defend the perimeter. He's so versatile, does so many things at such an elite level defensively that I as much as I have my problems with Jonathan Isaac in a variety of areas, like it's so hard to just not love watching him play defense. It's just, I just love watching him play defense. I don't know. Maybe this is too much aesthetic bias for me, but I legitimately do believe he's a top 5 NBA defender when fully healthy.
The tough thing for me with Isaac, and I'm going to take Lonzo Ball here. And I'm going to tee Coop up for a potential home run. We'll see if he returns the favor I did him by not drafting Lauri Markkanen. But I like Isaac too. The really tough thing is he basically has 4 seasons in the middle of his career that like he just didn't play. He's basically had 3 healthy seasons. Now, on the good side, 2 of those seasons are the last 2 seasons. And when he's been healthy, he's been a great defensive player, but he's been a bench player completely. He's averaged 15 minutes per game the last 2 seasons. I'm just not sure what it looks like in the playoffs for him, if he can be an actual playoff rotation player. And so I go with someone like Lonzo Ball, who has had injury concerns as well, a lot of problems. And the last couple years specifically have been really rough. But when he's been healthy, I think he's been better than Jonathan Isaac, especially offensively. He's had multiple seasons of being a good shooter. He's a great passer, especially in transition. He's not like a point guard, and that's the thing we always missed on with him is the passing did not translate to point guard. It translates to like shooting guard generally, but who can grab the ball and push it in the full court. But the tough thing is that he's just never been healthy. But when he's healthy, I think he's one of the better like 2-guard defenders in the NBA in terms of he can guard on the ball, he can create havoc at the nail, he can play and help, and he's a good rebounder who can grab the ball and push and really kill teams with his transition passing. So Jonathan Isaac was not the other guy I considered, but when it comes to Lonzo Ball over that guy, even though Lonzo is less available, I think and I hope that Lonzo is going to have a really good year for Cleveland this year. And like I think there's a world that Cleveland wins the championship this year, and Lonzo Ball is a part of that. And I think that this other guy is while he's available more, I think is more damaging than Lonzo, and so it's hard. It's hard for me to draft him as much as I do love him. So Coop, you're up here at the turn. I'm interested to see if you're going to take who I'm talking about.
I love both of the players you two just drafted. They are both awesome. Not Jonathan Isaac for some reasons, but yeah. Lonzo Ball has had the unfortunate luck of, also self-imposed luck of being on the 3 worst franchises in basketball, 3 of the 4, I guess, as his first 3 teams. And now he gets to go to the Cavs and be on a winner, and I'm really excited for him, and I really hope he can stay healthy. I'm going to take Phoenix Suns legend Dillon Brooks here. Possibly the most overrated defender of our lifetimes in a lot of ways, but quite possibly the most underrated offensive player. And I know that he gets treated like he's some 3-and-D stalwart. Dillon Brooks is a talented shot maker, low feel, with great touch. But this is a guy who you can, if he was your 6th man, you would be the happiest person in the world. This is a guy who can scale in different lineups offensively. He can hit open jumpers. He can take some off the dribble stuff. Yeah, he has some highlights where he looks like he's prime Michael Jordan. And sometimes you just need your role players to be able to do some bullshit, right? Bullshit wins you basketball games. That's the Malik Wilson ethos. And I think that Dillon Brooks is the professional version of that. When we talked about John Tonji, Bryce and I really talked about how valuable this kind of guy can be, who can really just bring value offensively. The on-ball defense is dookie unless he's really taking the matchup personally. If he's healthy and he's taking the matchup personally, it's really good. The off-ball defense is absolute ass, the game-losingly bad. And he had 1 bad series against LeBron, and everyone thought he sucked. But this is a winning basketball player. So I hope we don't forget that.
I have a couple of things to say. One is that you're not slick. I know you picked him just so you could talk about John Tonji. But 2, I think it really comes down to the night, and more often than not, I think he is not a winning basketball player because he's so detrimental offensively so often that he really can shoot his team out of basketball games. He has this, it's even more detrimental than Lou Dort, who's kind of pretty much the same player, just better on both ends. But the offensive decision making is just so horrendous too often to be someone that I can fully trust playing heavy minutes like in a playoff game. Like, yes, it's defensively he can make up for it sometimes, and then also it's like it's just this gamble of is what he can he make a big play defensively that makes it worth 3 or 4 times down the court of just chucking up nonsense. Like I don't know, and that's where I considered him with my pick for sure, but that's a really difficult player for me to value.
I do think
I'm
he's been
definitely higher on
overtasked.
this.
Real quick, I think he's been overtasked a bit offensively by like the Grizzlies and the Rockets. And if you can find a way to scale him back and unleash him more in doses, I think he could really be a winning player. Too bad he's on Phoenix, where he's their best player now. But Bryce,
I'm definitely a little higher on Brooks' defense than you, Coop, in that I think he's really good when he can guard fours. When you can put him on strength-based creators, he's really good. His feet just don't move. He's not a good point of attack defender on like guards. His feet don't move that well. But in terms of gaining leverage on bigger creators, I think he's great. He is one of those guys I put in the class of like, yeah, I want this guy guarding Luka Doncic. Just in that, like, you're not going to just bump and go through him to create that type of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, last year he had a really good season, and then he gets shipped out, and that's kind of the thing with him is it's like he's good, and then he gets traded or he's not welcomed back. Like that stuff does factor in some ways, but he's been good, and I like Dylan Brooks. He absolutely would have been a guy I was very young on. I watched him play in person when he was in college, so I'll always be a fan. Coop, you're up here again.
I'm taking the complete opposite of Dylan Brooks here. I'm taking so you're not Donovan Mitchell, and that's okay. Give me Luke Kennard here. I think this is the guy left who has just had the most consistent plus basketball being played, and I wouldn't know if I would necessarily define it as plus basketball. It's just this is a guy who can go in and do something, right? This is a guy who has played minutes. I'm pretty sure every year of his career, he can actually shoot the ball. He can really knock down spot ups at a super high clip, and that's about it.
Speaking of, since the last year of his rookie contract, he has not shot below 43% from three. Every year he gets them up and he shoots. And that just last year he shot 43.3. Before that, he had shot 44% or higher across multiple seasons. Like, he is, in terms of just making wide open shots, he's great. He's not really a movement shooter. He's not like some big gravity well, but he makes wide open shots. He can kind of dribble and do some secondary handling stuff. Last year he averaged 3.3 assists, the year before 3.5 in Memphis. I think he's actually going to have the ball quite a bit off the bench in Atlanta. This is a guy that the NBA clearly values. I think that it's weird because he floats around on these mediocre teams all the time. And you kind of are like, well, what is it going to look like if he's like actually on good teams and has to play in the playoffs? I think the answer is probably just he doesn't play in the playoffs. But as a regular season player, he's about as consistent of a backup two as you can get in terms of he takes nothing off the table offensively. And defensively, even though he's awful, like he's okay enough at some of the rotation stuff that if you can hide him, he's like not a disaster in the regular season. Did you have anything else you want to say there, Coop? I didn't mean to jump in, but I was going to take him, and I think he's super interesting in that way.
No, he's just that's literally it. This is not a guy who's like we could sit here and talk about all the reasons he's so good. He shoots the ball, and he's not awful.
Yeah, we're at the point where this is going to go faster. What pick is this right here, Coop?
17, which kind of, I mean, we've reached this point a lot quicker than, either of the other drafts that we've done.
This draft starts to really thin out. I'm thinking the last guy I have is like this is like a real like guy that's still in the league, like that's still going to start basketball games. Last year he started 62 of 65 games, has been a very popular guy for a while. I'm going to take Kyle Kuzma. Listen, I don't love Kyle Kuzma. I don't. And I understand the issues. this guy scores at times in his career. He's scored a lot. It's never been like completely inefficient. Like, for the most part, he's okay. That's not true. In Washington this year, before he got traded to Milwaukee, it was really inefficient. But he's not a good defender. Like, he's not a good passer. But I do think that I think he's closer to John Collins. He's worse than John Collins, but he's maybe closer than we give credit to. Like, he can just kind of score. He can kind of do some bullshit, and he's big enough that he doesn't get attacked a ton defensively. Like, he has some feel for spacing, and he makes shots. Like, is he great? No, but this guy's like better than like Torian Prince. Like, I would have taken him over Luke Kennard personally. I would have taken him over like Jonathan Isaac, even though Isaac obviously has like quote unquote higher upside in terms of like when he's on the floor, you like what he does more. But Kuzma plays, he's like always healthy. He has played 60 games or more in every year of his career. Like, this is just a guy that's available who can do things offensively as like a 6'8" forward who can provide space for your stars, do some secondary creating. He's an okay, like, when he's in with bench units. Like, it's just a guy. And I understand, like, why we don't like him and why we let him fall so far. But at a certain point, like, if you tell me, like, you're getting a guy who, even on shitty teams, could score 22 points per game on only slightly below league average efficiency, like, okay, that's something at 17 in any draft, much less a redraft, 8 years later. So I understand the hate, I do, but I think this is the spot for him. And I probably would have considered him even a little bit earlier. Stone, you're up here at the turn.
Yeah, that's 2 spots too early for Kuzma. So I will take the 2 better players I had ahead of him. I will go with Chris Boucher first because I think he's actually a good backup center. He is a backup center. That's what he's always been. That's what he always will be. But maybe a backup power forward in some instances. But always my favorite player on those Oregon teams. We talked about his teammate already with Dylan Brooks, and he had a couple others that had cups of coffee in the NBA that we might talk about later. But I think he actually can shoot. Like, it's actually like real shooting from a big that you just don't get that often. He has his warts defensively. I think that obviously he just gets overpowered a lot with his frame. I think that he isn't the best reader defensively when it comes to off-ball stuff, but I do think he can rim protect at times, and I think that he has some like untapped passing there that it is not going to get tapped ever because you're not giving the ball to Chris Boucher a whole lot. But I do think that there's some value there as a backup center. The other backup center I will be taking, he's probably the more popular pick for most people, will be Luke Cornett, who had sort of a breakout year, I guess you can say, or maybe 2 years ago with the Celtics, who got his, good for him, got the big contract with the Spurs now to be their full-time backup center. I don't know if I see him as that level of guy, as like one of the better backup centers in the league, but I do think he is a really good roller. Seems to be a great locker room guy. Defensively, I think makes a lot less mistakes than Boucher, just offers a lot less offensively. So I'm going with those 2 guys back to back here.
Who was your second pick? I my brain just completely shut
Luke
off.
Cornett.
Okay. So I do want to talk quickly about Luke Cornett because he's so interesting. Because like it feels like he should go higher because he had a really good year last year, and the year before that he was pretty good too. But there's a lot of years of him basically just not being like an NBA player much at all, like through the middle part of his career. And so it's hard to get too high on him. I do think it's crazy that you said that 2, like, in my opinion, like pure backup centers, like not really any starter equity centers, you would take over Kyle Kuzma, who's a starting wing in this league. But we
only starting because he's a wizard. But carry on.
I mean, he started for the Bucks. I mean, the Bucks were not good, but again, I still think like I'll save it. I think we undervalue. I think sometimes we undervalue scoring in our role players because we think, oh, all the scoring should be done by our stars, and I want guys that make shots and play defense. But there is something to be said for being a really good third scorer, and for whatever it's worth, Kyle Kuzma is like a fine third scorer. Anyways, I will leave that one at the door. Cornette, interesting. Boucher, good. I think Boucher's going to be like. I think Boucher's going to have like a sneakily great year this year for the Celtics as their backup. He might even. There's a chance he ends up starting because they have like no centers on this team, and I think he's going to have a sneakily like really good year. And I think that could bump him up a little bit. I think we're really in no man's land now. Like those were the last guys that were even because like Cornette, even though he's had so little of a career for so long, you're like, okay, like you expect with him signing this contract, he's got a couple years left. All these other guys, I think, are going to be borderline out of the league, except for this guy I'm going to take. And even he, like, I think maybe I just really like, and this is my version of Stone taking some random European, but I'm going to take Simone Fontecchio, who only played like 16 minutes per game last year for the Pistons. And again, is like borderline out of the league. I don't even know what team he's on right now. That's shows you how much
he got waived by the Heat, I believe.
He got waived?
Or bought out. I think he got traded to the Heat and is no longer on them.
I think he should be in the league. I think this is a guy that's like 6'8" and can really just shoot the cover off the ball and is a pretty good defender, like an underrated defender. I guess the biggest issue is that this last year he didn't actually shoot that well from three, and that sure is a problem. It says he's still on the Heat for what it's worth. Okay.
You are correct.
Yeah, I hope he plays and has a great year. I really like Simone Fontecchio. I think he's kind of gotten shafted by the teams he's been on. When he's gotten his opportunities to play real minutes, he's always been good. And it's just he's not getting those opportunities very often. There's a 6'8" guy that can defend and shoot. I think there's a chance that this is like a real playoff rotation player. Like if this guy was on the Warriors, like there's a world they're like, man, we got to close with Simone at the three. He's just kind of been on these weird teams that haven't needed his skill set specifically. Maybe that changes with the Heat this year. I hope so. But that's where I'm at. It was between him and one other guy. There's one other guy that I think has probably had a better career, definitely had a better career than Fontecchio, but I think is probably closer to being out of the league. But we'll see if Coop takes him the next couple picks here. Coop, you're up.
I'm going to take the guy who I prefer first, even though he's probably the worst player. I'm going to go with Sterling Brown, a guy who had a good few years. Bryce is taking Simone Fontecchio, and I'm not allowed to take Sterling Brown, who's like actually good at basketball.
Oh yeah, I want to hear who your other pick is, so I'll let it slide. But I mean, yeah, saying that Sterling Brown is actually good at basketball, I think is probably a little bit of a stretch. He hasn't been in the league in 2 years, really 3 years. He played 4 games with the Lakers in 22-23 and has been out of the league since. So
it's okay. He's been playing for Partizan, so it's real ball over there. Playing pretty well. I think this is a guy who can shoot. He can defend. He's just a little short for the position that he should actually be playing. If he was 3 inches taller, I think he would have stuck around in the league a lot longer, gotten a much longer leash. I know that there were some like character incidents and he got hurt and there's a bunch of weirdness. And I think that's kind of the reason he's fallen out of the league. But he's doing pretty well overseas, averaging 12 points over in Europe. So I like Sterling Brown. The guy who I feel like I kind of have to take here because he had like a weird career resurgence after being like an absolute bust. And there's a bunch of those guys in this class specifically. Kind of like the light version of Chris Dunn, who we talked about. I'm going to go with Dennis Smith Jr. here. A guy who kind of made his way back to the NBA. I'm pretty sure he's on Charlotte at the moment.
He's playing for Dallas, but I think he's just
got signed by Dallas.
Is he on a full contract or is he just on an E10? That's I'll look that up.
I'm not sure.
Go ahead and give your spiel.
But he's played like 50-plus games both of his last 2 seasons. I think he's just kind of like a role player effort guy who can sometimes get you a bucket. But I think that that's a decently valuable player at this point, and he's a guy who is at least an NBA athlete and can at least kind of do things for you on an NBA floor. Not someone who I love, though.
I think he's just on an E10. I hope he makes it. I thought his last year in Brooklyn, he was actually like a really good defensive guard. Pretty inefficient, not a great passer. It's obviously a problem, but as like a third point guard, I think he's okay. The guy that has fallen too far, and who I probably should have taken over Fontecchios. This is I'll accept the blame for this. I'll take Monte Morris. Monte Morris definitely should have gone ahead of Dennis Smith Jr. And he should have gone. He should have gone ahead of Sterling Brown for sure. Even though Sterling Brown, to Coop's point, playing.
I did forget about him.
Yeah, Sterling Brown playing at a level overseas where you're like, like if he was like 6'6", like you'd probably be back in the league. But he's like 6'4". But Monte Morris has been really bad for like the past like 3 years, give or take. I guess maybe 3 years ago for Washington, you would say he was fine. But he had a couple of really good years for Denver. He was a really good backup point guard for a while. He had 2 years, last year in Denver and his first year in Washington, where he started a ton of games and was good those 2 years. And then the last 3, he's just been really bad. And I think he just signed a contract with someone. I can't remember who. I think if I were to guess, I've heard he's like a great human. He's a great guy who's just going to be around. So like maybe this is unfair to say. He just signed with the Suns. I would put some bet that this is his last year in the NBA, just to be honest. I just have that kind of feeling. Like I think he's been on this downward spiral. He just really cannot score at an efficient enough level, and he's not like some high-level playmaker anymore in the way that I think so many people thought he was. And he really hasn't been. Like, what's so funny is, his first year in the NBA, he barely plays. In college, he was like this big-time assist rate guy. And he's never, like, his 1 year in Washington, he had a 26 assist rate. But then, like, he's never actually been, like, this crazy, like, play-making guard. It's just, he could kind of score for a guy that's so small, and he's smart. And he could just kind of figure some things out and find spacing. He had good chemistry with Jokic. And all that stuff was good. He's just not that guy anymore. I don't think he's ever really been particularly additive to winning, but he's had a good, successful, long NBA career. Is he going to fall just short of 10 years, I would imagine, but not horrible. Stone, you're up here at the turn.
Yeah, I'll take another set of backup bigs here. I'll go with Thomas Bryant first, who I think has had his moments in the NBA as like a productive offensive backup center. Defensively has just continuously been atrocious. Took him a long time just to get signed this year. I think he's also pretty close to being on the outs of the league. But he's had moments where I think I could confidently say like Thomas Bryant is at least someone I would be comfortable with as like my third string center for a lot of teams. And I think that, he's an NBA player in my eyes, which is
for what it's worth. 3 really good seasons in Washington early in his career, not defensively, but offensively, like legitimately really efficient, really solid seasons where he made shots on the outside. I feel like he's slowly gotten worse since then, but was a good player for a couple of years early in his career and has been, as Stone said, a fine like offense slanted backup big in recent years.
Yeah, I think he's naturally talented. Like I think he has good touch. Like I think he's just got a natural offensive game that defensively he's been so poor that it's really tough to make up. The next guy I will go with is Zach Collins, who definitely my least favorite Collins from this class, but is somebody that has had his moments too, where I think a lot of people, especially over the first 4 or 5 years, were like, they're still hanging on to hope, still believing that maybe Zach Collins is someone that can stick in the league. I think that moment has slowly passed him by, just with so many injuries have slowed him down. Not that I was ever a huge fan of his game coming into the league, but he did have and still does some level of shooting touch from the outside that I think warranted some intrigue. I think he is a pretty decent passer. Defensively, I think that he's not as atrocious as Thomas Bryant, but he just can't stay healthy. He cannot stay on the court for any given period of time, and I don't think he's at this point in time good enough to warrant more holding out hope that he can sustain an NBA career. So I think that both these guys are very much on the fringes, but have had the longest cups of coffee, I guess you could say, in the NBA that currently remain.
Zach Collins might be like the greatest like potential man guy in recent memory in terms of like he's got so many contracts just based on man, he could be good. He's like other than that 1 year in San Antonio, which was after he got a big contract, he's never shot particularly well from outside, and that's been so much of his sell. Never been a particularly good rim protector. But yeah, like you said, perfectly reasonable pick here. We're kind of at this nonsense zone. This is the last guy that's still in the league. So I'll take, and I think he's still in the league. I'm going to take Tony Bradley, who was like an important player on a finals team last year, kind of, and is going to be back with the Pacers this year. They chose him over Thomas Bryant. Great human from all accounts. Everyone loves him. Legitimately big, good hands as a rebounder, is generally in the right spot, just not a very impactful athlete. Bad touch. But yeah, he's a third big. You don't even really want him as a backup big because he just doesn't actually do anything well enough. But as a third big, he's fine. And like I said, this is legitimately the last guy from this draft 8 years ago that's still in the league. So that sure says something. Coop, you're up here at the turn. Are these the last? Is these the? We all have one more, right? You have two more. I have one more, and then Stone has one more.
Yeah, so I have my last two. I do want to give a shout out to Tony Bradley because one time my dad and I were watching a game and Tony Bradley checked into the game for the Sixers and my dad started like bursting out laughing watching him play basketball. He's like everything my dad hated in a ball player. And I fully respect that he stuck around because he is tall and he can set screens. But this is tough. That this is like an impossible ask. This is like, I'm gonna go Edmund Sumner first because I think he should have kind of stuck around the league some more. Just kind of too short for the position he was supposed to play. I mean, what is he listed? He's listed 6'4". I mean, he plays like he's 6'1". He's just so skinny. This is a guy who's a pretty solid slasher. He has some stuff, some touch, some fun inside stuff. He was really fun on Indiana, and then he just got hurt. And then I thought he was really dynamic for that Brooklyn team, and that was trying to at least be all right. And then he just kind of fell out of the league. I liked him. I like Sumner. I think he's a guy who I would take a swing on if he wasn't so old at this point. But I do like him. Do you guys have any thoughts while I pick my own brain for my last? Actually, I do have my last pick. So if you guys don't,
I like Sumner. If he could have stayed healthy, he probably would have stayed. He had like a really good season for like a guy on a minimum, and then he got hurt immediately. It's bad luck sometimes.
Yeah, he's kind of struggled. I'm going to give a shout out to a few guys here. I want to take Markelle Fultz, and then you look at his stats page and you remember he was horrible. I want to select Damian Dotson because he's a Cougar. I want to select Cam Oliver because I think he should be in the league. And I want to take DJ Wilson because he's another guy who I actually think should have stuck in the league. If the offense wasn't absolute dookie balls, I think he would have actually stuck in the league. But I do feel like I have to take Jordan Bell. This is a guy who at least played in the NBA and played real minutes, even if he wasn't particularly good. He threw down an East Bay in game one time. So I think that's going to be my final pick here. is Jordan Bell.
Respect.
Not my favorite Oregon big from that team, but
I would have picked Jordan Bell as well. So I respect it. I'm going to take Ishmael Wainwright.
Nice.
Cool story.
Nice.
Another guy that I think might have stuck in the league, but I believe he got hurt. Not particularly good, but cool story that he kind of came over later in his career. Stone, you're up here at 30.
I think he had some moments, but I think he had like 2 or 3 solid years of being a good 10th or 11th man. I will round this. This board has gone exactly. I only did 30 players, and all 30 of the guys I put down got picked. Thankfully, I wanted these last couple picks to get picked because I like them both. I'll go with Tyler Dorsey to round out the Oregon crew, that core 4 from Oregon. Tyler Dorsey has legitimately had a good career in Greece after having 2 different cups of coffee in the NBA. One for, I believe, the Hawks when he first got drafted, and then later on in his career with the Mavs. Has played for the Greek national team. I think last year played in Greece's first division. Just had a pretty solid career overall. Probably not an NBA player, but a really solid overseas career. And I think someone that I enjoy watching still. I'm probably the only lone person on planet Earth that does. But it's been I think a good career for him, even if it hasn't been fully in the NBA.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. It was my 30th guy would have been him or Dwayne Bacon. Shout out Dwayne Bacon playing in Dubai this year. There's really not a ton else to talk about in terms of guys. I mean, we could bring up Devon Reed, who had like one really good season, I should say really good. He averaged 4 points, but he had like one kind of fun season and then was never anything else. But Stone or Coop brought up Damian Dotson, who I love personally, but whatever. The real thing here is this was a first round full of busts. 12 first round busts by my count, and I am going to count Markel Fultz there, even though he kind of sort of got a second contract. Because if you look, I don't know that you can really count it with the injury stuff. I still think he was kind of under 5 years. But Markel Fultz, Josh Jackson, Frank Ntilikina, all in the top 10, busted. And this is, again, not counting Dennis Smith Jr. as a bust, who obviously was a bust for a spot.
Zach Collins.
Yeah, Zach Collins. At 10, I think Zach Collins has had probably an average career for a 10th overall pick, honestly. He's been okay. And he still probably a swing worth the talent. But these guys that fail out in their during their first contract, those are the real busts to me, where it's that juice wasn't even worth the squeeze. That not even a real try. Justin Jackson at 15, I know Stone liked but never worked out. Justin Patton at 16, DJ Wilson at 17, TJ Leaf at 18, Harry Giles III at 20, Terrence Ferguson, Tyler Lydon, Andrzej Pistechnik, and Caleb Swanigan all completely busted out of the league. Yeah. I think my big takeaway from this draft is that this is a draft with some really high level stars and some really good rotation. Really good rotation. We're talking about Derek White and OG Anunoby and Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, even Isaiah Hartenstein. Those are some really, really really good rotation players that are on high level teams later in this draft. I would say this is overall so far comfortably the strongest draft we've done, but it also has the worst final 8 to 9 picks of any draft we've done. It's not even close. Easily the worst depth of any draft we've done. Was that your guys' takeaway too?
It's the worst bottom 15. The worst second half and probably the strongest front half. Very unbalanced, very American. We can think of it like that. We could think of, stratification, something. We're going to get called broke again.
Top 50%. Yeah. I'm with you.
But this is a funky class. I still disagree with what Stone said, calling this the strongest class of the decade. And after going through it, I disagree even more, Buster. So we're about to get to a class that I'm pretty sure has more depth and better top end players. So
the lotto talent in this class to me is just like if you take the 14 best players, I don't think it's like from top to bottom. At the top, definitely the next year we'll be overtake it. But you talk about 4 through 14. Like I don't think you're finding a stronger class than this one, and I think that matters a lot because they're all really strong starting level players in my opinion. But I do think this was a lot of fun. This was the most fun I've had because I actually did have a board to utilize. I actually put some effort in this time. So I'm looking forward to the next one where I'm even more prepared. And I think it'll be a lot of fun to talk about a lot of the hits and misses from that class because there are definitely some big misses that I think was pretty obvious to see at the time even.
For what it's worth, I would say my final takeaway on this class, and especially in conjunction with the last class we talked about, it further boosts my philosophy that like yay points is more, that stuff is more valuable for like mid rotation guys like a Dylan Brooks or a Kyle Kuzma. It's more important that those guys can get buckets than your guys that have to be stars. Like finding that balance of this guy can play defense and contribute in other ways outside of just having the ball in their hands. Again, I'm not saying I'd take Kyle Kuzma over Brandon Ingram or anything, but like I would take Derek White over Brandon Ingram, and I would take OG Anunoby over Brandon Ingram and not think twice about it, right? And so the overarching like thing I've taken away so far from doing 3 drafts is the more you can identify scalability, and scalability often includes scoring. Scalability is not just, man, this guy straight up can't dribble or can't pass or can't, he's just a 3-and-D guy. I think for the longest time, I was obsessed with that. The idea of scalability is 3-and-D, and that's not it. Scalability includes passing, it includes dribbling, it includes scoring, but it also it's being holistic. You want to have special skills for your stars. Then outside of your stars, you want maybe one thing that's like really high end, and then you want these other skills that are moldable and worth building around and that kind of fit. And the truth is too, like, sometimes you got to take the long view. Even older guys, Derek White took a little bit to hit. We mentioned Luke Cornett took forever. He just stuck around in the league because he was 7'2" and everyone liked him. And then all of a sudden he was a good player in year 8. Like, that's just, sometimes these weird things happen, man. That's basketball. So this was a really fun draft to go back to. For Coop at Alley_Hoop_Coop, for Stone at Report_Court. I'm at Bryce114. Give us a like, rating, review, all that fun stuff. We'll be back next week with the 2018 draft. I think we're going to try and do these all the way up through it, probably at least 2024. That's my guess right now. So stay tuned for all of those. This has been the Upside Swings NBA Draft Podcast. We hope we're ceiling. Thank you.
Oh,
sorry, I started recording. It's okay. I'll just throw it at the end. Yes.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, Stone, you can go first because I want you to.
I have to take a Celtic. Are you kidding me?
You have to take a Celtic. And because
are we going to go reverse order, or do you want to go third, Bryce?
No. We'll just reverse order. I think. Okay. I like being the turn. I think that's kind of a good setup for us. But because this draft really starts at 3. And I think the guys that are there are more interesting for Coop than they are for you, Stone. As much as I love you, I just
Stone's gonna take fucking Jarrett Allen if you let him pick at 3 or some bullshit.
That's I had that concern. I was looking at my board. I was like, man, those guys at 8.
How high can Derek White go?
1. He's not even. I'm taking the different Celtic.
Okay, real question, and this is something you could actually put at the end that's worthwhile, Coop. Stone, who are you taking if you're building a team right now? Alex Caruso or Derek White?
Derek White.
That quick. Okay, fair.